Story 1. Chuckles. My husband was showing me a chat he was having with his friends, and then there's a picture of a big shit.
My husband once sent his mother and me an email with the subject line, "Check out this shit." Both of us wish we hadn't opened it. He's a child sometimes.
I remember one time before football practice, my friend Matt came running out of the John into the locker room. Jovais, you gotta come see this. It's sticking out of the water. Gentle folks, the commodes in my high school locker room were not small. And the delivery. I'll never forget his genuine enthusiasm. Word spread quickly, and admirers of all sorts bore witness to Matt's huge dump before practice.
I had one of these shits once. I made a point of changing stalls before wiping because I wanted to make sure everyone else could appreciate her beauty.
Story 2. In the army, I lift a lot of weight. A high-ranking official showed me his friend, who is a bodybuilder. First picture, okay, he's buff. Second picture, the guy is buck naked.
Buff in the buff. You missed a good opportunity there.
Story 3. I looked at a random guy's phone in middle school, and he was watching a man get decapitated with a saw while still alive.
I was shown a video of a guy chopping his cock off with a hatchet during high school math class around 2008.
Was it a Russian soldier on the ground with a boot on his head holding him there? I don't think it was a saw, but a large knife that was being used to saw through. It's been like 25 years, but I can still hear the sounds he made.
Sounds tame. Chuckles. I remember when 2 guys, 1 hammer was normal.
Story 4. It was my first day volunteering with homeless and disadvantaged people. One of the older gentlemen in his 70s liked photography. He was showing me some of the pictures he had taken and kept swiping through them until he reached a naked photo of himself. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Oops, that's just me." Chuckles. Apparently, it was a rookie error to look at his photos, and he does it often.
I usually call it a creepy piece of shit being a creep. But yeah, you're probably right.
Does your wife like photography? Chuckles nudge nudge.
Story 5. I worked at a knockoff Apple store, and a guy needed help with his phone. He only wanted my help. I was the only woman there. He said he needed help deleting things. Turns out the things were weird, like porn apps that he kept accidentally clicking on, and photos of naked women. He clearly wanted 18-year-old me to see it, and I didn't know how to say no to helping him, so I just pretended it wasn't weird.
I worked in a call center when I was in college, over 20 years ago. I did Verizon DSL support, but there was also a cable support line. A guy would call up until he got a woman on the line and ask her to list off his pay-per-view purchases, which would all be porn with gross names. Chuckles. Sometimes he would stop her mid-list, tell her he had finished, and then hang up. Eventually, I think they flagged his account, so it would always go to a manager.
Story 6. A video of my now ex-wife screwing a guy, plus 10 months of their text messages about how she was planning to marry him.
Nah, pretty sure it was a romance scammer. She lost all of her settlement money, $70,000, within a year of the divorce. She was cheating on him too, though. I found a second guy, and there were signs that there was at least one more.
Sounds like divine intervention pulled you out of that one, brother.
Doubtful. 7 years and a kid is a hell of a long con.
Story 7. My youngest son mistakenly received a full explicit photo of my ex-wife's vagina. He asked me to remove it from his phone because he didn't want to see it again. She said she meant to send it to someone else. Poor guy, he was about 10 or 11 at the time.
Man, I really don't get the appeal of being sent full-on close-up vagina pictures. I'm sure it's some people's thing, but I'll never get it. Full body or lower body's fine.
She was sending it to her gynecologist. You'd be amazed at the tests he can do through the phone.
Why did your 10 to 11-year-old have a smartphone?
Story 8. I had a female friend for many years that I thought of as just that, a cherished friend. She misplaced her phone one night while we were hanging out, and she asked me to call it. When I did, I was the one who found it. Unfortunately, you should know I have a common name. And like most people in that situation, since she had 3 other friends with the same name as mine, we were all listed under a descriptive nickname that she selected for us. I was listed as just one word, unfuckable, as if it was my name. I was totally fine with our relationship never being more than friends, and I have no issue with the fact she had no interest in ever hooking up. But after seeing her phone screen, I realized she saw me as an incel simp that she pitied. I just handed her the phone, told her she misspelled my name, and left her house. She called and apologized, and I accepted, but I never spent time with her again.
You're a better person than me. I would have made sure the phone was lost forever. Chuckles.
That's just mean. There was literally no need to do that. She could have just added your last names to differentiate you guys.
Wow.
Story 9. I was a manager at Lowe's for a couple of years while in the middle of changing professions. An older gentleman in his 60s or 70s was showing me a picture of what he wanted on his phone, and he swiped too far. There was a nude picture of a much younger woman, probably in her 20s, spread-eagled there. Thankfully, I have poor vision, so I didn't see everything. However, I could tell that everything was there for me to see. Yikes.
This brings up a memory from a long time ago. Chuckles, my uncle wanted to show my sister a picture of his granddaughter. I was sitting next to him and saw him pull up a picture of my cousin's 2-year-old girl. Well, with him being kind of old, when he went to turn the phone around, he must have swiped it somehow, because then I saw a picture of a nude woman spread eagle, like something off the cover of Hustler. And before I could stop it, my sister grabbed his phone and got the most what the heck look on her face. She closed the phone. It was a flip phone, handed it back, and politely told him that he showed her the wrong picture.
Story 10. Nothing on anyone else's phone, but one morning I woke up to a series of pictures sent from an unknown Mexican prefix. It was just pictures of dead people in various states of dismemberment, blood everywhere. That shit is still burned in my brain.
In retrospect, I probably should have, but I scrolled through once and was so jarred, I just deleted the whole message in one swoop. Also, in retrospect, I'm not sure they could have done much. Like, it was a random number from a different country, probably on a burner phone or something. I always wondered about it, though, like, was it a proof message from a gang or cartel that they just decimated an entire room of people, or what? 10 years later, and I still can see it. Oof.
That happened to a former coworker. Except it was a video walkthrough of like a shower room at a gym or something that was being used to chop up and exsanguinate people before they got dumped around the city. The guy taking the video was narrating like, doing it in here makes cleanup way easier, and the trucks get less dirty this way. Just cartel things.
If you messaged back, they probably would have said you're next unless you send them $50,000 or some shit.
Story 11. I was an emergency department technician at a hospital, working the graveyard shifts while I attended a post-baccalaureate program to get into medical school. This was by far the worst night of my life. At 1 a.m., 2 families checked in. Both patients were 1-year-old girls. The first family's complaint was that the mother thought the father was sexually abusing their daughter. Fuck my life. She was obviously upset and acting appropriately given the situation. The second family checked in with twin daughters, same complaint. However, they were acting completely normal. Both parents were on their phones, intermittently laughing and smiling. It was absolutely maddening. She said her daughter was raped by her 12-year-old brother. How did she know? The kid had recorded himself doing it on his phone. I sat in this triage room with a doctor and had to watch this disturbing video. I was seething. I'd never once considered hitting a patient before, but damn, the thought was pounding in my head. 5 years later, I'm 2 months away from becoming an emergency medicine doctor myself. Wish me luck.
Also, this is absolutely atrocious, and I'm so sorry it happened and that you had to know about it like that. All of it. Awful.
The one night I wish I could forget. I have many other horrible cases, but this one always stands out for me. Because we're mandatory reporters, we have to look at the evidence, the whole video. Needless to say, Child Protective Services got involved.
So, all the kids were 1 year old, apart from the 12-year-old.
Story 12. I'm old, and this isn't a phone story. I found the negatives from the film that was used to take pictures of my father's bachelor party for his second marriage. Little kid me didn't need to see my dad licking cream off a stripper's nipple.
I once found some old Polaroids of my mom taking a load in the face from my dad, my uncle, and another guy.
Your dad and his brother nut on your mom? Or your dad and your mom's brother nut on your mom? I don't know which is worse, to be honest.
Chuckles lightly. I mean, getting blasted in the face isn't typically how you get pregnant. So maybe it's not all that surprising that you only have one sibling.
Story 13. Chuckles? My aunt asked me to delete some apps from her phone, but when she handed it over, it was open to a nude photo of her sent to a bloke called Nikos, who owns his own chippy.
Love OPS aunt. Love fish and chips. Love sending nudes. Enough said.
I'm kind of curious how you know so much about Nikos from this one picture.
I immediately assumed it was an app where several people chip in to pay the bid for a pricey stripper show. Chuckles.
Story 14. Accidentally opening a chat and realizing someone you trust talks about you completely differently behind your back. That kind of screenshot lives rent-free in my head forever.
This is horrifying. It actually happened to me and my dorm colleague. I was the one talking and chatting about him with my girlfriend and another common colleague about how his girlfriend always visited him. Not bad stuff, but mockery and mean things. I was sharing the C drive on our local network, and he downloaded my Yahoo Messenger chats, unlocked them through an app, and read them all. We had a big fight, and the rest of the university year was so awkward. We mostly didn't even speak to each other. Oh man, that's one of the weirdest things that happened to me.
Story 15. My best friend's nude photo. He swiped the wrong way when showing me pictures of his new puppy, traumatizing us both.
But it's so much more difficult to send nudes when they're locked behind a hidden album.
On an iPhone, there's a shortcut called Confidential Presentation. You can select the photos you want to share, then use this shortcut. It will lock the phone and only show those photos. There's no way for someone to see anything else. It's a good way to show pictures if you need to hand the phone over.
Why even keep it on your phone? As soon as I send a naughty pic to my husband, that shit gets deleted. I don't need it getting saved to the cloud or someone seeing it when I show them photos.
Story 16. When I was in the Army, I did a rotation at the National Training Center in California. The opposition force there is played by a U.S. Army unit, and they attack the training unit visiting at various times. The opposition force is supposed to have personal items not in play inside a Ziploc baggie. Other items found are considered in play and could be potential intel items. These intel items are usually maps or some type of battle plan, usually paper items. One of our dead enemy combatants was searched, and a phone was found not inside a Ziploc bag. So it was considered in play. It needed to be searched, but it was locked. My company commander kicked the Opfer kid who was playing dead and demanded his code. He gave it. It was my job as company intelligence support analyst to analyze it. So I started going through his phone, looking for anything mission related. Instead, I found dick pic after dick pic. Chuckles. The dead kid was giggling his ass off, knowing what I was being subjected to. My commanding officer glanced over my shoulder and asked, "What's that?" I just responded saying, "It's his cock, sir. And so is that, and that, and that." The phone was full of nothing but his cock. We stopped going through people's phones after that.
That was for sure a burner phone he bought just for that day. Get cock-bombed.
Story 17. Former human resources guy. One time, an employee had pictures of, animals doing stuff. We discovered it after he was fired for an unrelated thing. I think we made the right decision at the time.
Yeah, he enjoyed the wilder side of equestrian arts.
That's still one of my favorite videos of all time.
When National Geographic films animals mating, it's fine. But when a random person does it, suddenly it's a problem.
Story 18. Not exactly someone else's phone, but I found a random phone's memory card while unpacking a box once. I threw it in my phone to see what was on it. I didn't recognize any pictures as being mine or my wife's. Then bam, my sister-in-law fingering herself. She lived with us for a short while and must have taken it out at some point, and it got mixed in with our stuff. Story 19. I had gone out for a first date with a girl who turned out to be a complete nympho. I accidentally swiped across a nude photo of hers, and instead of being embarrassed, she admitted to me what she was before showing me a gallery of all her pictures and videos, as well as a physical list of her body count. This was before OnlyFans, by the way. It went from kind of hot to mostly weird when some of the videos were with guys I knew. Now I know how women feel about seeing dick unsolicited.
The first question after all that, you were diabolical, man. Laughing my ass off.
Story 20. Not stolen, but accidentally left. This was 20 years ago, so the tech was different. I worked at a bar and my phone broke. My boss was generous enough to lend me an old phone. I had it for a few months, and at the time I was in a long-distance relationship. Sexual videos were often exchanged. When I gave the phone back, I was positive I had deleted everything, until he pulled me aside at work and informed me that his 10-year-old son found a video of me masturbating in a weird file that I didn't even know existed on the phone. These were flip phones, not iPhones. Always make sure you delete the deletes, people.
The mindfuckery of catching his kid jacking off to you jacking off on his old phone.
Story 21. My best friend handed me her phone to show me pictures of her kids. There was a nude photo of her husband in the mix. Chuckles nervously, he's got a micropenis. Story 22. Not me, but my mum accidentally showed her and her boyfriend's nudes to my boyfriend when she was scrolling through her holiday photos. It was the first time she had met my boyfriend. Story 23. A text message thread between my dad and his mistress that included a picture of her going down on him, taken from his point of view. Story 24. Their father's dick pics when he was trying to show me pictures of his 18-wheeler. They weren't going to his wife, which made it hella awkward, even more so. Chuckles. Story 25. Haha, I got something for this. My best friend and I were at an amateur wrestling match because her mom was working there. The middle-aged lady sitting in front of us had her phone brightness legit maxed out, and from the corner of my eye, I just saw a big old dick on there. I looked over and she's messaging someone and they're sending her dick pics. She's opening them in public with tons of people sitting all around her. It was definitely a bit of extra entertainment for the night. She also got multiple dick pics, which made it even funnier. Story 26. I worked in a flooring store, and this guy came up to me with his friend. He was sliding through pictures on his phone to show me what he was looking for, and he swiped left one picture too far. Chuckles. I saw a picture of him giving a blowjob to his other friend. His jaw dropped, he panicked, swiped back right, looked at me like a deer in the headlights, turned bright red, and started profusely apologizing. I was trying so hard not to die of laughter because it went from such a deep chat about flooring to trying to stay professional while being shocked by a blowjob picture. I just told him it was fine, it happens, we can move on. He was too embarrassed, so I told him the same thing had happened to me before. Unfortunately, I was laughing from experience, and not to worry, I'd probably forget about it. I did not forget about this. Story 27. Every time a guy lets me hold their phone, there's porn. Either photos or just on their browser. At least homies close the apps. Story 28. I went through pictures on a phone I found at a party when I was about 15, trying to find the owner. It was the new girl's full frontal nudes. She was definitely younger than me, and my friends at the time were mean girls, so not a good or safe combination. I pretended I didn't see them and gave the phone back as soon as possible. Story 29. Pages upon pages of text messages from my ex and his best friend, sharing nude photos of barely legal women. Some probably not even legal. They're both 31. They're also talking profound amounts of shit about me, while being incredibly wrong about pretty much all of it, just for some late afternoon ego stroking. But he loved me. He was going to marry me. Story 30. I'm a 19-year-old bisexual woman. I had a previous intimate encounter with another woman before my ex-boyfriend and I started dating. Then I discovered my boyfriend at the time using a secret Instagram account, begging her for nude photos and saying he would pay for them.
Did he not know there are free nudes all over the internet?
I'm sorry. That sucks so much. What an asshat. At least you dodged a bullet. Hopefully your ex was decent about it and told him to piss off. Fingers crossed you've moved on to a better partner.
What I really wanted to ask was, were you guys intimate and nude together by then? Was this fool chasing nude photos when he already had the real deal in his life with you?
Story 31. I was at a conference having dinner with my boss at the bar of a steakhouse. Another attendee sat next to me, obviously several drinks deep already. We started talking and got into how different apps back up photos automatically. He thought he might have some on Amazon Photos, so I helped him download it. He signed in, but nothing happened, so he handed it to me. I put him on Wi-Fi and everything started syncing. Bingo! Naked pictures of his wife on a float trip. Story 32. A friend of mine showed me a picture of the girl he was talking to, but not her face, just her butt. It was the exact same picture of a butt that I had received earlier. We were unknowingly talking to the same girl. Why was this bad? Because we both thought we were falling for the same girl. We just cut ties with the girl and went back to partying.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that it was good behavior on his part, and I won't dismiss it as just guys being dudes, but that was the mentality at the time. We were close friends, and he was trying to brag to me with the picture. For what it's worth, I've never shared a photo that was sent to me because I wouldn't want the same done to me. In that instance, I told him I had the same picture and did show it as proof, though.
Story 33. Took my stepdad's phone to connect to Wi-Fi at my house and inadvertently, he doesn't have an iPhone, found saved porn pictures and videos. Had to act like I didn't see them and keep trying to find the Wi-Fi.
What does his not having an iPhone have to do with anything?
Story 34. My ex-boyfriend, who was 24 years old at the time, I was 18, was cheating on me and he was a pedophile. A 14-year-old minor messaged me on Facebook. Apparently, they were part of a Minecraft friendship group. She said my ex was in an online relationship with her and had sent nude photos. There was also a 16-year-old boy in her friend group with whom he exchanged nudes. When my ex was sleeping in my dorm, I took his phone. I knew the password but had never snooped before. Into the bathroom and found everything on Snapchat and in his camera roll. I threw up, then immediately went to campus police, then the town police, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history. Chuckle softly. Expand this, please. What happened?
Story 35. I accidentally saw on my divorced friend's dad's phone a picture of his side piece with a football in her pussy. I'm still confused to this day.
Both would be shocking, but one is definitely more of a challenge than the other.
USA football or UK football. Truly a feat either way.
Story 36. A coworker was showing his World War II medal collection. He scrolled too far and hit his Nazi memorabilia collection, complete with a wall full of flags on display not preserved for history. Story 37. Not long after starting a new job, I was closing up one night with the manager. Making conversation, I mentioned cats and we found common ground. So naturally, we started showing each other pictures of our pusses. Flick, flick, and then very much not the kind of pussy I was expecting. A fresh post-op trans vagina shot. Story 38. The text of her telling another guy that she's only happy when she's talking to him. I had just taken her to Mexico a month before to celebrate our 8-year anniversary. That was a brutal read. Story 39. My buddy, a real brother. He came to stay at my house after a suicide attempt. He had split up with his partner. They were engaged. He told me he had seen things on her phone. He was suspicious and very unlike himself. One night, he went through her phone and found things. When he told me, I thought he had seen text messages or something. So he tells me he took pictures because he didn't think anyone would believe him. When he showed me his phone, I was literally shocked. He showed me a photo of her camera roll, showing what can only be described as an abundance of very graphic homemade porn. This was literally the most explicit stuff you can imagine, with multiple men. Videos of her having them piss on her face, pictures of her face with bruises and cum, and videos of the biggest man you've ever seen fucking her ass. I'm saying I cannot even describe how horrifying this stuff was. Whatever your worst nightmare of what you'd find on your fiancé's phone, this was far worse. I understood why he couldn't tell me out loud what he found. I suggested he delete the pictures for the dubious consent issues, and he just looked at me, nodded, sipped his beer, and said, "She never even let me fuck her up the ass." Poor fella. Probably the worst thing I've seen on a phone, and my buddies and I were watching ISIS beheading videos at age 15 on our little Blackberries. Story 40. Way back in the day, I worked top-level tech support for a cellular carrier. Before there were really cloud backups for photos, we offered photo backups. The service was awful and constantly had issues. Part of my work was resolving these kinds of issues or escalating to engineering. Normal calls went like this: "Have you tried these steps and waited an hour to see if it worked?" Most calls that got to me, the answer would be yes. So I would tell them to fix this issue, I need to access their picture storage, meaning I will see all of the pictures in there. About half of the people would say no and tell me they would try the suggested steps. The others were fine with it. I would then read a script that explained once again I would have the ability to see all pictures, and that if it had to be escalated further, the engineering team would too. I was talking with an older woman about an issue they were having, which was that they could not access the photos. She sounded sweet, saying it was images of her and her husband. I did my normal explanation, no issue. Read the script, no issue. Made sure one last time, totally okay. Immediately, just child pornography. What I assumed was her and her husband assaulting a child. Like hundreds of photos. I told her it looked like this issue would need to go to engineering, that she should expect a call back in a week as there was a backlog. She said thank you and hung up. I filled out an incident report, flagged my call and desktop recording for retention. A couple of weeks later, I was pulled into a meeting with our legal team and an FBI agent about the call. It was really quick. Can you confirm your name, that you took this call, and will you sign an affidavit that you didn't store any of the images? Nothing has beaten that. Story 41. My ex with another guy's cock, the guy we used to work with, while she was passed out drunk on the couch with her tits out. It wasn't even that big.
Sorry, are you saying she was sexually assaulted while asleep? I hope I misread that. And if I didn't, I hope you reported him to the police.
No, she had been up drinking and exchanging spicy pictures with another guy. The picture of his junk was on her phone.
I get it. Cheating is often a result of trauma or deep-seated insecurity, and that's part of what makes it so hard to get past. Trauma is sticky, warm. I hope you now have a life and love and home you deserve.
Story 42. My buddy was showing me a funny video on his phone. All of a sudden, a random text message pops up from an unknown number. He opens it. It's a picture of a dick. His dick. Someone he doesn't know sent him a picture of his own dick. Apparently, he sent a dick pic to some girl he was banging, but she had a boyfriend unbeknownst to my friend. The boyfriend found my friend's dick pic on her phone, sent it to himself, then texted it back to my friend and didn't say anything after that. Chuckles, I found it funny. I also now know my friend is packing heat. Story 43. My mom traded phones with me, and I found pictures of her with bruises on her face and neck, and evidence that she nearly got trafficked. Story 44. Oh, there are two that traumatized me. First, my boss was asking me to explain WhatsApp to him. At one point, I was going to help him send a photo of his ID to someone, and when I saw his gallery, it was full of naked women. Second, once when I was much younger, a cousin helped me reset my phone. God only knows why he logged into his Google account. When I entered my gallery, his backup had been uploaded to my phone, nudes from him and his wife. I asked someone else to factory reset it for me without saying why.
What is WA? Asking because I'm fairly certain it means neither Washington nor Western Australia in this context. Chuckles.
Story 45. Not a phone, but a company PC. A guy quit, and when we went to delete his profile, we found a ton of emails and Craigslist interactions with some questionable older gay men. Dude was engaged to a very sweet lady who had no idea. Story 46. When my buddy and I were 12, before the age of smartphones, he took the biggest shit I've ever seen in my life. It had to be at least a foot long. Chuckles. Long story short, he took a picture of it on his mom's phone, and she accidentally showed a table of her colleagues this megaturd while trying to show them pictures of her son. Story 47. About 10 years ago, I was using my father's friend's phone and accidentally opened his gallery. It had 30,000 pictures and videos, all of them porn. I was traumatized. I was only 4 or 5 years old. Story 48. My dad's reaction when I sent him a picture of my micro Legos. That was when my parents were talking about sending me to a boarding school, back when I was 12. Story 49. Helping a customer set up their online account. They handed me their phone. Chuckles. The first tab I opened was Pornhub. Story 50. A picture of one of my college friend's genitals on his phone. He was a bit of a freak, and I found it in the deleted pictures. I was looking for a picture that I took and accidentally deleted on his phone while I was taking pictures of him with it because he asked me to. Story 51. Nothing super crazy. Guys on public transit watching porn, which I scold them for. Wait until you get home, dude. Story 52. My girlfriend wanted a break, but she said we could try again on New Year's. It was hard, but part of me understood her. Eventually, about 1 or 2 weeks later, she wanted to meet and talk about it. We did. I went to her house. She showered. My intuition and intrusive thoughts were off the charts. I checked her phone. She was texting some guy, saying, "You must want me to suck you off again." I left. Story 53. When I was probably around 13 or so, cell phones were just becoming truly mainstream. Most people were getting them and texting was huge, and blah blah blah. Anyway, I didn't really know how to use one since I didn't have one yet and needed to call my mom. So my friend's mom let me use hers. Well, after getting off the phone, I was trying to just end the call or whatever, and it somehow defaulted to text messages. And from my friend's dad was a text that just said, "Wanna bump fuzzies tonight?" I died inside a little because they were like second parents to me, and it was so gross at the time. Story 54. I borrowed my brother's phone to take a picture, and I saw a very graphic picture of him holding his shaft. Story 55. Chuckles? I used to work at a photo printing place, and this old guy asked for help getting his photos from his phone to get them printed. They were mostly of him dressed as a baby and a woman. Story 56. This was actually something someone saw on my phone. I love medical gore, and I was dating an orthopedic surgeon who worked at Bellevue. He would send me pictures of really horrible feet, gangrene, maggots, and so on, with all identifying information removed, of course. I handed my phone to a friend who I knew got grossed out easily and said, "Don't swipe on the pictures." Well, they swiped, and then they puked. Story 57. I have a coworker who accidentally left her phone in my office, which I share with another coworker. We both thought it was each other's phone at first, then realized it wasn't ours. My coworker turned it on to see who it belonged to, and the picture on the home screen showed our coworker squeezing her bare tits together with her elbows. Pretty wild thing to see. Most people hide their nudes, laughing my ass off. When our coworker returned to pick up her lost phone, neither one of us could look at her. It was so uncomfortable. Story 58. My friend was scrolling through pictures of her dog, and then there's just her topless. Chuckles. Story 59. When I was in high school, there was a handful of dudes who would watch people dying, like on LiveLeak and stuff back in the day. They were all these otherwise standard Twinkie blonde dudes, all independent of one another. Anyway, I saw a lot of fucked up stuff, but the worst was probably this guy's head getting grilled. And to this day, I make sure to never look over people's shoulders. Story 60. A customer was trying to show me a bottle of wine he liked. He'd snapped a picture of it at a restaurant. When he opened his photo app, there it was, his dick pic. Chuckles. Story 61. A friend hands me his phone to look through a vacation photo album, and, let's just say, a lewd picture of his wife's private parts had somehow made its way into the wrong album. Story 62. I was just on a flight, and the guy in the row beside us was asked to let the other passenger on the window side pass to put a backpack away. He put his phone down, displaying a fully opened photo of someone's little flaccid cock. He just left his phone on his lap for a good 3 minutes while he proceeded to chat up a storm with the guy. Story 63. I work in information technology. One day, I was fixing a problem on the vice president of finance's company cell phone. He was having network issues on it. After some troubleshooting, I went to the browser to test network access by trying to go to a web page. The first thing I saw when I opened the app was gay male porn and a gaping asshole. I didn't say anything. I just quietly opened a new tab, performed the test I planned, confirmed it was working, gave it back to him, said it was fixed, and left. I didn't report it or say anything. Besides, it's not the worst thing I've seen on the internet. Not when there was LiveLeak, and I don't judge. But on a company phone, that man's playing a dangerous game. Story 64. On my father's phone, I saw him texting and harassing a female student at the school where he worked. He was then reported and fired. Story 65. My ex-girlfriend liked to take pictures of all her bruises she'd get from working with horses. Okay, fine, whatever. One day I used her phone and discovered she also liked to take pictures of the shit she'd take most mornings. I didn't mention it as we had other issues and didn't last long after that anyway. I always thought taking a shit, standing up to take the picture, then sitting back down to wipe was a lot of work. Story 66. I was going through my now ex-girlfriend's phone and saw a photo of her sucking someone else's dick. Story 67. Chuckles lightly. This is pretty tame, but I was in an Uber with some friends on the way home after a night of drinking. I didn't mean to, but I just happened to glance over at one of my friend's phone and witnessed him texting 3 different women, telling each of them that they were the only one for him, the love of his life. Unable to hold my tongue, I called him out for his scummy behavior, and he had the audacity to act confused, like he genuinely couldn't understand why cheating on 3 women at once is such a dick move. Story 68. My father-in-law put the family Disney photos up on his screen at Thanksgiving. Kidney stone picture, piss in a toilet. Instead of swiping past, he made us look. Story 69. A buddy of mine asked me to check his notifications while he was playing Smash Brothers online. He was pretty good, so I preferred to watch him play rather than waste my time playing against him. I checked his phone, and his cousin had died skydiving. The parachute got tangled, and I guess the backup didn't deploy right or something. Not as crazy as some, but it was pretty wild to me that a first cousin's death was delivered by text. Story 70. In my high school choir class, there were a few minutes of downtime where we weren't doing anything and were just waiting for directions. One of the students stepped out for something and left his phone with his cousin, who knew his PIN code. The student was known for being super nice, like brotherly or even fatherly to some of the other students, including myself. I definitely thought of him as a wholesome type. When he stepped out, another student said, "Yo, check out his hidden photos." And the cousin did. There were hundreds of pictures of female students and staff, close-ups of their chests and asses. A lot of them were immediately recognizable, including some of the girls he'd treat in a fatherly way. You could tell they were taken when the girls and women weren't looking. Under tables, some blurry, some bent over picking things up. He was a senior around 18, and he had a known crush on a girl in our class who was the same age. There were pictures of his crush, but way more of her younger sister who was 13 at the time. Before opening the hidden folder, everyone was laughing and smiling, but immediately after, everyone went silent as the cousin kept scrolling. When the student returned, no one said anything, and the class ended awkwardly that day. I was in the room when the news broke to the guy's best friend, and he broke down crying to hear his childhood friend was taking creepy pictures of their mutual friends, younger kids, and teachers. I heard rumors that pictures of that best friend's family were found in the hidden album, but I'm not sure. Everyone was shocked since he seemed like the last person to do something like this. He was quickly ostracized, but this was around March 2020, when COVID happened, so schools were canceled very soon after. COVID saved him from having to face us who knew every day and might have kept him from getting his ass beat. Haha. Story 71. I saw someone's phone with thousands of unopened emails and hundreds of unupdated apps. My obsessive-compulsive disorder couldn't take it. Story 72. Probably my ex-girlfriend's videos and pictures of her pleasuring herself and sending those videos to people to make money. And seeing her put a dildo the size of a Coca-Cola 2-liter bottle inside of her. Story 73. My family was on vacation with our family friends. The father from their family was showing me, my mom, and my dad some photos on his phone, just innocent family pictures and such. He kept swiping through his gallery, and then, out of nowhere, he swiped to a picture of a nude woman, a random pornographic picture. We were all in an awkward position at that point and didn't know what to say. The man proceeded to keep swiping through his gallery to other pictures, completely avoiding what had happened. Everyone just continued like nothing had occurred. Not a word has been spoken about it since, and this was 6 years ago. Story 74. A photo of my manhood on my wife's best friend's phone. I was scrolling through her vacation photos on her phone. She handed it to me while chatting with my wife in the kitchen, and I scrolled too far back. Story 75. I saw a photo of an underage girl on a youth minister's cell phone. She clearly had a penis in her mouth and was looking at the phone. It was not in his texts. It was in his gallery, indicating he'd taken the photo. He also used to joke that the reason he volunteered at pregnancy clinics was because you knew the girls there put out. I had to report the guy. Later, I learned he'd sleep with the girls from his youth group who'd just turned 18. It made me sick. Story 76. 3 of my ex-boyfriends. Nudes of exes. Twice. And sexed with multiple random girls in Canada. From a different third guy. I have better taste in men now. Story 77. I needed a micro SD card for my new phone and was talking about it with some friends or acquaintances at our local hangout. One friend said they had one they didn't need and popped it out of their laptop. They said they just got a new one for their phone and didn't need this one anymore. For gigabytes wasn't a big deal and had become somewhat disposable at the time. I popped it in and didn't think much of it for a week or two. Then, one day, I was looking for an old photo I had taken and bam. Dick pics, a few actually. I guess that guy had forgotten he didn't finish formatting that SD card. Story 78. A friend of my son sent him a picture of his hand with the fingers blown off from a firecracker. I told him not to send it to me. He sent it to my husband anyway, who showed it to me. It was horrifying. Story 79. An open Literotica tab for an incest story. It was on a relative's phone. I wish I could forget.
Everyone has some weird fantasies, but they won't admit it.
Story 80. I was on the subway, and I accidentally glanced at a phone displaying a nude man wearing a leather dog mask. Story 81. I was training a group of newbies, so I was asking people to open websites from their phones. This dude standing next to me opened his phone at full brightness. His browser showed an old search. Is anal really pleasurable? I locked his phone, and for the next week of training, he was very calm. Chuckles. Story 82. I'm a barber, and I still don't know if this was intentional, but an older man was planning a cuckold orgy for his wife and his buddy's wife. A lot of details, but what feels intentional is that all the communicating was done on an iPad. Story 83. My friend was showing me pictures of his trip to Hawaii, and mixed in among the pictures was a picture of a naked transgender person, a boy becoming a girl. Story 84. A coworker was showing me a photo of his new dog, and a very clear, high-resolution photo of his recent colonoscopy results popped up next. We both just stared at the screen in silence for a solid 5 seconds. Chuckles. Story 85. One time, I saw someone's entire camera roll pop up, and they just casually scrolled past so much. We never talked about it. Story 86. Not me, but the husband of a friend fixes phones for a living. Not long ago, he accidentally discovered child pornography in this old freaks gallery and reported the whole thing to the police. The pervert wanted to give him 50 euros so he could forget what he'd seen. Story 87. I saw a folder on my uncle's computer. Weird, explicit pictures of women of all sizes and ages. That's not the worst part. He had pictures of a friend of mine saved from her Facebook and Instagram. She and I were just 13 at the time. It was obvious he must have stumbled across her social media only through me. Story 88. A classmate showed me a video of somebody shitting out of someone's asshole and onto someone's hand. That was so disgusting. Story 89. I was at a bar in a nice restaurant, and this girl was showing me some pictures of food she'd made. She was swiping through them, and there was one of a guy in a leather BDSM outfit with a mask and ball gag. Chuckles. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I almost died." Story 90, it was like some type of level thing where each level, as you go up, got worse. A girl was watching a guy get his dick iron pressed. Story 91. I saw that my dad had messaged my professor to send him the result, as he didn't believe me. Story 92. In the early 2000s, a friend got a Nokia 6600. I was browsing the menus and stuff since it was a big deal at the time. Then I came across some animal porn starring a horse and a woman. I closed the video and gave his phone back silently. Chuckles. Story 93. Not a phone, but a PC. TLDR. A man in his late 60s with inappropriate anime images of children. Anyway, her dad has his girlfriend living with him and her son. Not his son, but my ex hates him because he treated her and her sister like shit. Also, a super weird dynamic on its own. She is my age, same year. Really dumb. I couldn't convince her I am a bit younger by 3 months. Both the same year. Also, I came to find out she doesn't do anything for the kid and drinks 2 bottles of wine a day. Yes, 2 every night. Well, her dad's, the drunks. Dad would come over to fleece my ex's dad. Free meals, did all his laundry there, and generally an asshole piece of shit. He would play military videos and games in the kitchen. One day, I walk into the kitchen and see the background on his computer. It was like 4 anime girls that looked all of 8 years old with enhanced parts. I immediately went to look for my ex's dad and told him about it. He said he had seen it, to which I replied, "And you let him around a 5-year-old?" He told me no, not alone. Never alone. Shit, after I saw that, I immediately picked that rule up as well. Long story short, I don't have to worry about it, as I am not in an active relationship with my ex at the moment. Also, he died, but who gives a shit about people like that? Fuck them. Story 94. One time, I picked up my mom's flip phone, no password, to bring it to her. Her friend texted her while I was holding it. I consider this woman my aunt. My mom had me read text to her when she was driving, so I didn't even think twice about looking at the message. Curiosity killed the cat. It was Velma and Scooby-Doo. I was only 6 or 7. Story 95. I was at the zoo, and my dad was looking something up. Out of boredom, I looked over at his phone and saw that all of my dad's most searched websites on Safari were porn. Story 96. A guy sitting next to me on a flight was chatting about porn. He looked married and was around 40 years old. Story 97. I bought a phone off eBay in 2004, and it had the previous owner's client list with file transfer protocol login information for their websites. Since I was also working as a web designer at the time, I knew what could be done with that information. I just deleted the file and never told the guy. Story 98. I was at my friend's place for a few drinks one night about 20 years ago, and his sister's ex-boyfriend was there. He waved me over to show me what he had on his screen. It was a video of a woman having sex with a horse, and then one of her with a German shepherd. Chuckles nervously. I nervously chuckled and said, "Haha, wow, okay." And he tried to send me the 2 videos, but I declined. I didn't like him from the first time I met him, but nobody really listened when I said it until they broke up, after thinking a baby would fix his shittiness. Aside from trying to send people bestiality videos, he genuinely believed wrestling was real. Not, yeah, they actually do those moves and there's a real chance of injury or death real, but like the stories are real. One night, he was sitting on the couch watching WWE, getting right into it. My friend said, "You know wrestling isn't real, right?" And the guy glanced at him, grumbled in offended tones, "Shut up," and kept watching. Story 99. On my cousin's phone, he had a Facebook account targeted at hitting up high school girls, and a collection of their photos. He was 34 at the time. Story 100. Los mensajes que le mandaba mi padrastro a su amante. Me los mandó mi mamá y yo, pendeja y tonta, obedecí. Usted no lo haga. Story 101. I work in telecom sales. I was setting up a customer's phone. His screensaver was this slideshow of his girlfriend or wife's lewd photos. Her in a bra and nudes in the shower. Chuckles. Story 102. Borrowed mom's phone to look at pictures of something. I think it was a concert? I really can't remember. And suddenly there was her coochie. Quickly tried to scroll away, only to find a picture of a man getting fucked by a horse. Story 103. Do you want sex? That was a text on a very large female coworker's phone. Came in while she was showing me pictures of her kid. And this wasn't the kid's dad. Story 104. I once saw someone casually scrolling through videos of real violence, and the way they treated it like normal entertainment. Story 105. My wife showing me her school album and saying, "Chuckles? I was so stupid that I didn't marry this guy. That was her boss at work."